Okay, today I'm going to fix a cherry pie, and with any leftover dough, I'm going to make an extra treat that kids like, and adults. Basically, it starts out, I'm going to make actually a batch and a half of the dough, and that would call for 3 cups of flour for a batch and a half. And again, I'm just rough measuring to get a level cup. And the reason I'm making a batch and a half is a pie usually needs 2 crusts, and I'm going to make enough so that I have a little extra to make this extra treat I was talking about. All right, and I use 1 cup of Crisco. That's any kind of a hard vegetable shortening. It has to be firm. You could probably use butter that's cold in the fridge. I've never actually done that, but I'm sure probably people have in the past. But I would try the hard vegetable oil first instead. I'm going to kind of cover that up. Get my pastry cutter. Forgot to do that. Oops. And again, a pastry cutter is real helpful. That's what a pastry cutter looks like. And it breaks up the Crisco, blends it in with the flour. You want to do just that first. Don't add the other ingredient of water until after all of this is broken up. It doesn't take very long. My mom used to make this, and the dough that was left over, well, you didn't want to throw it away because that was waste. That was wasteful, and back in those days, you just could not afford to throw anything that was away that was possible to do something else with it. And so I don't know who else was doing this. I'm sure there were probably moms all over the country making this extra dish, and me and my siblings couldn't wait to get that because those were really good. All right, now I'm ready to add water. Now it calls for 6 to 12 tablespoons of cold water. I'm just going to go ahead and pour some in, about half of it. And then I'm going to start to stir, and I'll show you in a minute. It starts to form a dough, but that's still too dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And if I add too much, if I get a little too much water in there and it's kind of sticky, then I can always add just a little bit more flour. It's not going to be the end of the world if you accidentally add too much water. All right, now I'm going to sprinkle some out on the tabletop here. And I'm not going to take all of the dough. I'm just going to take what I think will make 1 pie crust. We want to get it smooth. And then we want to make sure this flour is spread around. And very gently. I can tell it's already trying to stick to the table right there. And that's what you want to avoid. And you want the pie crust to be reasonably thin. You don't want to have something that is too thick, because then it's kind of just, that's too much. Alright, that's reasonably thin now. I'm going to see if I can lift it. Yeah, alright. Take just a dusting. Turn it back. Turn it back. Oops, kind of tore it there just a little bit. Alright, then I'm going to take a pie pan which I have sprayed with Pam on the inside so that the crust doesn't stick. And I'm going to get a knife. And I'm going to cut just outside the edge by about 1/2 inch. Because you want to make an edge, and I'll show you how that's done too. And I'll put the rest of the dough back in the bowl. It's hard to lift back up off the... And I fold it over. That's a little easier to transfer it. I set it inside the pie pan. Kind of press it in there. Alright. And I got a can of pie filling cherries, country cherry pie filling. Now there's a difference in just a can of cherries and a can of pie filling. This has a real thick kind of a syrupy sauce to it, and you want that instead of a can of just cherries in a liquid, because if you try to use something that's just in a liquid, you're going to have a mess on your hand. It won't set up like you want it to. It might still taste like cherry pie, but it's going to be a little odd. And this can cost me right out about $3. You can probably get it in an off-brand name and it not cost quite so much, but I just went with what I could find. Sometimes it's hard to find things in the stores these days. Something else about pies, if you're having difficulty these days getting by, set that aside. It's an idea that you could make pies. That could be a peach pie, it could be a blueberry pie, it could be an apple pie, it could be cherry, it could be any kind of a fruit pie, or chocolate pudding into a pie shell, or lemon meringue pudding, or lemon pudding. I've got a recipe for that too. You could do that, and then at the farmer's market, usually every summer, spring and summer, there's a farmer's market in most towns. You could sell pies. You could sell the dinner rolls that I make. You could sell a variety of the different things that I make to make a little extra money. If things are really difficult right now, those are options I did back when I was younger and my kids were younger, and it helps stretch the dollar. So this is just something to be aware of, that all of this isn't just to feed your family, something that tastes good and that is homemade. It also is something that can be used to possibly make a little bit of money on the side that can help you get by. I'm going to flip that, turn it a little. It's not going to be a problem with that overlapping there. Alright, and I'm going to take the knife. I've got another pie. I'll do that. Let me get the other pie pan. It helps to have two, because once you've got one in use, it's a little hard to flip that over. Alright, set that in there. Brush off any excess flour there. And if it tears a little, it's not the end of the world. Alright, what I'm going to do is seal the two pie shells together, pie crusts. And what I'm doing is just kind of pressing them together and then rolling them under. And if there's too much dough on one side and not enough on another, you can kind of rob one side and pay the other. So don't worry about that either. Okay, now you've got an edge there and it's all kind of raised, but it's kind of boring. So to make it kind of a fluted look, take your finger and your thumb and at an angle, make a little ridge. Move up an inch, do that. 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 Over and over and over as you go around the pie. And then you've got kind of a pretty little fluted edge. All right, now, when a pie starts to bake, the insides will get hot and it will kind of bubble up. So we want to give it places to let the steam out. So we're going to make little cuts in the crust. And you can make a design. Doesn't matter. But that is a cherry pie. That goes into the oven at 425 for right about 30 minutes. I'm going to put it on a pie plate like this. And that way, if it bubbles over, it still stays within this container so that it doesn't make a mess in the oven. All right, put that in there because the oven has preheated. All right, I'll set the timer. Let's see, and it says 30 minutes.